Who loves a good Tuesday? So good to see you here. You know the drill. If you're joining us live or watching the replay, comment below where you're calling in from. This is streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and let me start the Instagram live. I always have to start it after for some reason. Okay, so cool. So I'm here to talk about something super, super nichey because maybe you saw my post yesterday all on machine translation and the right strategy for globalization, whether you're a vendor or a client. And I don't know if you noticed, but like midway through that post, I'm like, I'm not going to be consulting the industry much longer. But I love you all so much. And I want to give you this little bit of nugget and then, of course, make an ask. So stick around until the end. But first, my name is Kristen Gutierrez. I am a best-selling author. Be a Better Sales Leader. You can grab it on Amazon for almost any country. If you are in Argentina, let me know and we'll figure out how to get you a book. Excuse me. And I'm a keynote speaker on topics like moving the needle in your business, the 1%, taking action, and figuring things out. But like more importantly for the topic of today, I am a 20-year language services veteran, having spent full-time work for many years at big companies, formerly SDL, now RWS, TransPerfect, the translations.com team, Lionbridge, and the second half of my career at a lot of mid to smaller sized companies. And I consult the industry. I get brought in often by CEOs or owners, and we sit down and like I roll up my sleeves and I look at your business and I give you strategies specific to your business. And so here's what happened. Like 10 minutes ago, somebody calls me totally out of the blue. And like you store people's numbers, right? And I was like, hey there, like what on earth? I haven't talked to him. We worked together for like a very, very short minute. I haven't talked to him since then. I haven't talked to him in like 6 years, like 6 years. But you know the drill. We stayed friends on Facebook and he called me up. He's like, Kristen, I've got these questions. I was like, I'm going to go live and talk about this topic right now, because if you are a language services company and you're $10 million or smaller, this live is really going to get hit home for you. And listen, if you're a larger company, give all the love. Tell me where you work, where you're joining this live from, and I'll make it relevant for you too. But the thing that I find, having consulted our industry for a year now, is that companies of 10 million and smaller, they're working to make it work, right? The guy who called, it's like, I saw you on the webinar a couple weeks ago on M&A. And yes, thank you so much to the team. They brought me in to talk about mergers and acquisitions and what to do from a sales perspective. He's like, that's why I thought I should reach out to say hi. And also, oh, by the way, can you help me with this thing? See, what I find in companies that are even 5 million and smaller, I'm going to tell you this. A lot of smaller LSPs don't have salespeople. It is very often the owner or the CEO doing a lot of the legwork. And that's cool, right? We have to build our own businesses starting from somewhere. And then we hear about these strategies of AMs versus BDMs, account managers versus business development reps. We hear about strategies like inside sales, and we hear about these strategies of offshoring, right? And for our industry, it looks a lot like India. It looks a lot like Latin America, especially Argentina. Again, second shout out, Argentina in the house. But we need advice as the business owner of our LSP, as the CEO of our LSP. We need to bounce our ideas off of somebody who's either been there, done that, or has tons of experience. And my advice is not one size fits all. So write that in the chat, not one size fits all. I best fit anytime I am consulting a language services company exactly to what your business is. So it's kind of funny. You could ask him. He calls, he's like, hey, like, I want to know if I should, like, out of the blue, like, I want to know if I should have an AM or what I should do. And the first thing I did, anybody know? Let me take a sip while you ponder on it. The first thing I did was rapid fire off like 10, 12 questions. Revenue size, who you have working currently for your sales team or not, how many clients do you have, approximate number. I was like, do you have 1,000 clients or like 100 clients, right? We rapid fire off some questions so that my advice leans into where you are, because it's pointless for me to be like, oh yeah, do this. That is like a round peg in a square hole. You want to see what the opportunity is and then create a strategy that's really going to get there. And also, what's your growth goal? Are you looking to sell? Are you looking to buy? I already knew what his answer was. It was like, tell me about the rest of your team. Is like one of my favorite workshops that another client like basically helped me create was this whole concept of seller's mindset. And I have coached so many organizations. I've done free masterclasses even on this concept of seller's mindset. Like everyone is in sales and service, but at the same time, like, do you know? I do, having worked at Lionbridge for 6 years, like it's not in the job description of the project manager that you are going to be asking for referrals. You're going to be setting up meetings with the clients, that you're going to be like the one hand holding them, not just on their projects, but like driving innovation. You're going to be the one like asking, like leading the QBRs, like hosting quarterly business reviews, but also leading them. And sales is involved, as they should be, but at Lionbridge or bigger companies, especially when I worked there, the project managers were like up leveled, they're upskilled. So how can we utilize our time and teams to upskill your current teams? So it's also like, who else do you have, whether you have a gap in sales alone, or whether you have your first or second salesperson and you're looking at, well, does account management make sense for me? In a lot of cases, it does make sense, but I would say in the same amount of cases, it really doesn't. Which brings me to my point earlier on inside sales. Like, call it whatever you want. BDRs, setters, inside sales. Like, what are some of the other names that we call this in our industry? I started as inside sales. Like, it's really not called that anymore, but it's people who support the salespeople. It's like junior level. I was like 9 months out of college. I was 9 months out of college. I needed a job. This is in the book. I needed a job, and I was already selling credit cards at Saks Fifth Avenue, right? And clothes, of course. And so I stumbled into SDL, and they were bringing me in as an experiment. Can we train somebody to pick up the phone, send a bunch of emails, and find additional opportunities for us that then hands them off to the BDMs? Can we do that? The answer is yes, we can do that. But somewhere along the way, the inside sales model has kind of been around for a while in our industry. I mean, I started as 2005, but it's not like they were taking a model that they had seen work in our industry and replicating it, right? So the thing is, how you use inside sales or BDRs is really going to depend on the effectiveness of your strategy, which is the same with BDMs and AMs, which is the point of this talk. And I'll leave you with a few more thoughts and then invite you to book a call with me. But the idea is that I spent I was just telling him at Lionbridge, I was there 6 years. I love, shout out to all my peeps at Lionbridge. You know who you are. Like, we send around that picture from so many years ago. There's so many good people that came out of that group. And like back then as an enterprise salesperson, I was not allowed to call on deals smaller than $1 million. There wasn't the concept in our industry yet of hunter farmers. It was like whatever you hunted, you kept. And so one of my longest clients at Lionbridge, who I won like within my first year, and I had until I left, every year they repeated their business with us because my PM was so good, her boss was so good, and I stayed engaged and constantly tried to upsell and prospect into different avenues of the business. And then you know what I did is I brought these different stakeholders together within the company. They didn't know each other. They didn't know that they were also buying translation services. And so in a very decentralized client, I tried to centralize it. And we did a pretty darn good job with them. I'm like pretty sure they're still with Lionbridge, actually. And so the idea is that we kept what we hunted. But right after that, I'll never forget, like I was looking at a lot of other companies to go to. And this whole idea of like hunting, farming, BDM, AM really started to like poke its head through. And now we know it's like, is a hunter or a farmer. Somebody I recently had the distinct pleasure to work with. And hopefully if you're seeing this, you know I say this to you all the time, like one of the top 2 sales reps I've met in our industry, and no, I am not the other one in that case. But like her strategy for really honing and refining in on a niched territory was second to none. It's a whole nother talk though. And her ability to hunt and move on was like laser focused, like hunt and move on. So you have to look. This is another question I asked, like who is your current salesperson? In this case, he has one. What's their temperament? Like, what are they like? Because let's lean in. If it's working, and it is. So like, let's lean into that. So in this case, the advice to him, while a little inconclusive, I gave him my opinion, of course, but we're having another call. Yay. Is like how to maximize where you are right now with all the people you have on the ground and get you to that next goal, right? So your goal might be to sell, your goal might be to double revenue, your goal might be anything else, right? And then coming up with a strategy that's going to be right for your business. Because truly, if I haven't made the point enough, it's not a one size fits all. And this is even the case in bigger LSPs. It's just something I see in $10 million LSPs and smaller, the long tail of our industry where the bulk of companies is that there's often no salesperson at all. And then they start to hear about all these different terms and they're like, well, I need that. Well, I need that. Well, I need that. Same thing as next week, I'm going to a staffing industry conference to talk about AI. And in their industry, like ours, it's such a buzzword. And so tech companies will sell into this industry and be like, buy our tech because it has AI. And the owners and the VPs and the leaders are like, ooh, it has AI. So we have to buy that tech because if we don't buy that tech that has AI, we're going to be behind because we're not using AI. Right. So like just because you hear of a strategy of AMs versus BDMs, or if you hear of like how to deploy the right inside sales BDR model for you and what that looks like, I would highly suggest talking to an expert to figure out what's going to work best for your business to get you to the place you want to go. So to conclude, I really welcome the opportunity this week and next to book a call with you and figure out if it would be worth your time to where you are in your business today and what you need to take that to the next level. I'll make sure I drop my link below. If you have any questions, comment, reach out, send me a DM or book a call. And here's to your next $1 million.